They want me back now. Ay, ay, now she go down, down. Ay, ay, they want me back now. Ay, see I'm getting to the bag
now. So continuing on with the Nolan Wells case. Hopefully this is the last video. Actually, I believe it is the last video because Ben Crump, their civil rights attorney, has found another grift that he wants to play with, which is the Corey Ruiz case in Wisconsin. So this case is getting ready to wrap up because, you know, the grift is leaving. It's leaving. But I found a very interesting segment. You know, Stephen A brought on Charles Coleman Jr. and Officer Tatum to the segment, and they both have opposing views, but this segment, especially the beginning, the one we're going to go over, is so interesting to me. It is so interesting to me, and I'm sure you guys will find it interesting too. But before I get into it, let me just say this. Officer Tatum did his own investigation. He spoke to Nolan Wells' friends, his friend's family. He tried to get a hold of Nolan Wells' parents. He tried to get a hold of Nolan Wells' parents' lawyer, civil rights lawyer, Ben Crump. And he got nothing. The only thing he got was Nolan Wells' friends. They happily cooperated and did a little interview with him. And you guys should check it out. It's good, great. It's great content. Great content. You get to see another side outside of the side that they're trying to push, which is obviously a racial side because, you know, Mississippi history bullshit. Anyways, but what's really interesting to me about Officer Tatum bringing it upon himself to interview Nolan Wells' friends and trying to get the other side. If you're mad at Officer Tatum interviewing Nolan Wells' white friends, you are a clown, okay? The reason why they are mad is because how dare he show a different side outside of the side that we're trying to push. That's why they're upset. These people are clowns. Racism is their whole life. Without racism, they are nothing. You guys are nothing without racism, bro. Without racism, you are nothing. You're nothing. This is why you are a clown. You want answers. You have all these questions and we want to hear their side. And when he actually does it, you have a problem with it because what came out was something that you didn't like. You didn't agree with. You're a clown. Okay, you are a clown. Period. Done deal. Officer Tatum did his thing. That's how you do journalism. That's journalism at its pure finest. At its finest. But anyways, let's get into this because we have Charles Coleman Jr. and Officer Tatum. Two different sides, two different viewpoints. I found it very interesting, and I'm sure that you guys will find it interesting yourself too.
I'm doing well, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Charles Coleman Jr., let's start off with you. What can you tell us? I mean, the Nolan Wells case has been in the news for nearly 3 weeks now. For those who may not be aware of the case or have not kept up with the facts, just to recap, he was an 18-year-old college football player from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. On July 4th, he and a group of friends traveled by private boat to Horn Island, an uninhabited barrier island off the Mississippi coast. Wells was the only black person on the boat. Wells was last seen on the island around 3 p.m. His friends returned to the mainland without him. And as a result, ultimately, a couple of days later, he was found dead. Charles Coleman Jr., at this particular juncture, what's on your mind in terms of this case? What's missing? What are your thoughts?
Well, Stephen A., we just saw the family release their independent autopsy results yesterday, which were conducted by Dr. Roger Mitchell, who is the president of the National Medical Association. And those results were inconclusive. They were able to establish that Nolan Wells did not die by accident, that he did not die of natural causes, but at the same time, that they were not able to establish that this was a homicide. In fact, those results established that it was not a homicide. Now, one important caveat to note is that the chief medical officer from the state of Mississippi, the sheriff's office, removed the throat from Nolan Wells's autopsy when their autopsy was conducted first. We have not heard the results of the state's autopsy, but we know that when Roger Mitchell examined the body for the family, that the throat and other organs have been removed. So that your listeners understand, that's not abnormal. That is something that takes place normally during the case of an investigation and of an autopsy. So there's nothing that was wrong there. But at this point, Dr. Roger Mitchell, who did the independent autopsy from the family, has not been able to confirm any sense of foul play as of yet. That was undecided or undecisive. That does not mean that foul play may not have occurred. It just means that the autopsy that was conducted by the family did not show that conclusively. He saw some trauma to.
So basically, you know, the way these guys talk, you know, if you are not like sharp, if you don't get it, it really, it kind of messes people up because basically he's saying that it wasn't a homicide, it wasn't an accident. Or actually, they couldn't prove that it was a homicide. They couldn't prove it was an accident. They couldn't prove nothing. But we aren't discluding it. We aren't discluding it. It's still a possibility.
To some potential trauma to Nolan Wells's head. That was not something that he was able to explain as being the result of foul play. And we have yet to hear the state's autopsy and what they found or what their findings were. You may recall, and listeners may recall, that initially the sheriff's office said that they had no reason to suspect that foul play was afoot.
Right.
And what I would say that this autopsy confirms from the family is that while that cannot be certainly confirmed, it still can't be ruled out. So finally, there are 60 witnesses that have been interviewed in the course of this investigation by the sheriff's office. There's likely going to be a presentation to the grand jury, and we don't know what the toxicology report will show from Nolan Wells because much of that is in the hands of the state. But as of right now, this is where things stand. And as a former prosecutor, I want.
You know what I hate about these liberals? These black woke liberals. You know what I hate about them? Like, for example, this right here. He said none of it could be ruled out. We can't rule it out. They're huge when it comes to, hey man, it's a possibility. We're not going to rule it out. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. It could be some racial issue. Something could have went down. You know, we're not going to rule anything out. My eyebrows are raised. Let me actually now go to them and ask them, do you think that there was any fraud or fishy business in the 2020 election? Oh no, it was clean. It was clean. It was perfect. There was no fraud. It was not. This is what I hate about these liberals, bro. They're very, very choosy on what is fishy and what's not fishy. And when it comes to stuff like this, it don't matter if they gave these dudes an official statement with proof. Let's still not rule it out. Let's still not rule it out. We don't trust it. Clowns.
I want to know what the state's autopsy is going to say and what are the witness accounts that they are going to put forward in the grand jury.
Officer Tatum, you personally interviewed, you traveled to Mississippi, from my understanding, you to personally interview one of the young men who left the island.
Real journalism. Real journalism.
Why should the public trust whatever account is coming from them right now, in your estimation, based on what you've learned? First things first, I shouldn't say that. First things first, what did you deduce from the conversation you had from one of the friends that was with Nolan Wells. What did you take away from that you'd like the public to know?
Well, Stephen A., I want to make sure this is clear. I actually spoke to all the boys that were being accused. I spoke to family members. I spoke to also their attorneys. It's just that the one young man had the, I wouldn't say courage, because others had reasons why they didn't want to come on the camera. But he was able to come on the camera, and I interviewed him. And I also interviewed another young man who was black, who was there, who had his own personal accounts of what happened. I'm not asking people to believe or not believe. I just wanted to give people the information. Right. So nobody had heard from the young boys. Nobody had heard their accounts, and a lot of misinformation.
But I want you to understand, the reason why they haven't, did an interview with these guys, want to know their side of the story, all that is because they don't care. They have a narrative that they want to push, and if they get these dudes to speak, it might crumble it all the way down. It might destroy the whole thing. They don't care, okay? And the fact that Officer Tatum went to Mississippi to interview these boys, and everybody's upset about that, lets you know, bro, they are not going to accept anything but racism as the final verdict. These people are miserable, pathetic losers, bro. Race is everything to you, bro. It's everything to you. It's sad. It is so pathetic. It's pathetic.
Was very detrimental and not conducive for the investigation into Nolan Wells' death. It was punitive. They came out and started with race. It had to be something nefarious because these boys are white for any other reason. So I wanted to go out and hear the full story, and what I deduced from the interview and talking to everybody is that these young boys had nothing to do with what ended up happening to Nolan Wells, and also they were best friends. I mean, these kids had so many.
They're not trying to hear that. They are not trying to hear that. Oh, they had nothing to do with it? They're innocent? They were best friends? We're not trying to hear that. If it ain't racist, if it ain't racist, it ain't it. We're not trying to hear that. This is how they think. Pathetic losers, bro. Losers. You don't care about Nolan Wells. You don't give a damn about this man's life. You don't care about how he died. You want to push a narrative. That's just what it is. Keep it a stack.
Of them being closer to Nolan than any other friend group. And also one thing that shocked me was that this was an island, not secluded, not an island with 5 or 6 people on it. It was an island where there was thousands of people there, hundreds of boats, and also a lot of people could verify the statements that was made from some of these young men. So I really wish that we could have started at a point to say, what happened to Nolan Wells? Let's work together as a community. Let's talk to these young men, talk to other people, and let's find out what happened to Nolan instead of jumping the race.
Officer Tatum.
Well, why would we do that when racism is profitable? Racism is a tool. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? How are we going to be victims if we do it that way, Officer Tatum? Again, losers. Losers.
Officer Tatum, how do you know that it was misinformation that was put out there? How did you come to the conclusion that something was misinformation? Explain that. Is it just according to their account or something else?
No. Initially, I knew it was hogwash because when Al Sharpton and them got on TV, they automatically made an inference to say, well, it was something that had to happen because these kids were white. It was white kids with one black boy. I mean, that there's no evidence to project that unless you believe every white person is nefarious in their dealings with black people. And so I thought that was suspicious on his face. And then they said that Nolan was the only black kid. He was not the only black kid. Many of his black friends were also at the island with him.
Wonder why they skipped that.
You know, some of those things that started to come out, I knew that they were not being truthful about what happened.
Charles, your thoughts, your response to what Officer Tatum just said.
I don't necessarily know that the initial statements about Nolan being with some of his white friends is entirely afactual. I also don't know that it is a nefarious statement in as much as these are facts. He was with a number of different white boys, or
Yes,
a
so.
number of different boys who are white.
Yes,
I think
so.
that the problem with what Officer Tatum has just pointed out is that there is an underpinning of race when you're having a conversation about the types of things that happen and have happened to black boys and black people in Mississippi, such that it cannot be summarily dismissed. I did not necessarily jump to any conclusion, but the history of what race relations have been in Mississippi and how we have not necessarily been safe has caused me to take a special look at this case. It doesn't mean that I'm accusing anyone of anything.
I hear you, bro. I hear you. I don't disagree with you to an extent. I mean, I hear you. But here's my problem. We don't know anything, bro. Race shouldn't even came up until we found concrete evidence. There's no evidence. Y'all didn't even want to talk to the white boys. Y'all didn't even want to do an interview with them. Officer Tatum had to do it. There was no evidence. Now, if the evidence came out, then y'all want to think that way? Cool. I'll think that way too. Obviously. But it started off with, we don't know what happened. We have no idea. That's the issue.
Accusing anyone of anything, it doesn't mean that I do not believe in finding the process. But at the same time, I am not going to ignore the facts.
We're not asking you to.
You just pointed out. These are facts. He may have been with other black people, but we have seen the pictures. We have seen the photos. There were a number of people who were gathered out there for the July 4th holiday, but Nolan Wells was with 3 boys who happened to be white.
Yeah, but
those
it wasn't.
are facts.
He was with, but the thing is that it's facts without context. He was with more than just 3 white boys. That's the problem. There was over 20, 30 kids that got on 3 boats, and they all went to the island together. They didn't just travel with Nolan and just these 3 boys. Many of the boys that they're accusing, including Warren, wasn't even on the boat with Nolan when Nolan went out to the island. So some of those things were mischaracterizations of what actually happened. And the thing is that I don't think it's fair to say, because history has shown in part that white people or black people have had injustices, that all of a sudden you project that into a new situation. Black people have done nefarious things to other black people. Does that mean that you automatically jump to saying, oh, black people must be wrong in this situation?
That's a fair point.
You know, because he had his black friends there too. And why nobody's questioning them? Why nobody's saying, why didn't the black friends rescue him? What did the black kids know about Nolan? And many of them said that they saw him last when the white boys had left at 4:30. So I just think that the race should never be interjected. Nolan's friends told me.
This is the difference between a dude that's actually trying to figure out what the hell went down without leaning into any bias versus a dude that's leaning towards a bias. Then he gets frustrated when as the investigation continues, it doesn't lean to his bias. So he gets frustrated. It's like, hey, I believe this happened. This happened. This happened. But the investigation is not going that way. It's going a different way. So now he's getting upset. But you got to ask yourself, why do you need it to be that way? I don't understand. Like, do you want to know what happened to Nolan? Yes or no? Like, do you want to know the truth? Yes. Bro, it's crazy because Officer Tatum just debunked a lie that Nolan Wells' mom made. Nolan Wells' mom said that she didn't get no one reached out to her. No one reached out to her from Nolan's friends, from Nolan's friend side. His white friends, by the way. She lied. They reached out to her. They didn't stretch their arms. She lied. And again, why did she lie? Why did she lie? They're mad at Officer Tatum because he exposed her. He exposed her on her lie. And people are not upset at the mom. They're upset at Tatum. What? Make it make sense. Like, you guys are losers. You're losers to make race that important to you. Oh my God. Y'all are bums, bro. I'm so sorry. Y'all are bums.
Told me, and they proved to me that they were really close to him and they were some of his best friends. They said Nolan would have been incredibly upset at the way people are framing his death and going after his friends with no evidence.
Well, here's the thing.
Tatum, hold on, Charles. I would say this to you, Officer Tatum. I get where you're coming from. And by the way, I appreciate the context and I appreciate the reporting on your part. Because numerous reports that I had read was talking about how he was the only black kid there. He was a black kid with a few white boys. And you articulating that fact is very, very important. I think that's important and fair.
Numerous reported that he was the only black kid there. Like, it's either the reporters are imbeciles or they did this on purpose to try and stir the pot. Let's keep it a stack, bro. Like, it's not hard. It's really not. It's not hard at all. It's either these reporters are imbeciles or they're pushing a narrative. They're trying to deceive people racially. Let's keep it a stack. How is it that numerous report all said, oh, he was the only black kid there, when he was clearly not? When he was clearly not. Come on, man. Y'all got to open your eyes, man. They are doing this on purpose. The worst thing that could happen for these people that are doing these, that are trying to divide us by race, is it not working. That, like, really, man, I'm telling you, bro, this is a joke.
I think that's important and fair to point out. But what do you say to folks that will ask this kind of a question? He's on a boat, he's on an island, and according to numerous reports, he talked about staying behind and traveling back with a different set of company.
Yeah.
Yet his car keys and his phone was left on a boat that he had traveled to those guys with. So what teenager do you know is saying he's staying someplace, but he's going to leave his car keys and his phone on the boat with the guys that he arrived at the island with? That does seem a bit suspicious, particularly when the guy's mother, Nolan Wells' mother, had to use some app to locate the phone, and it was something that wasn't given back. These are reports. I'm not pretending to know, Officer Tatum. These are what the report said. What do you say to that?
And this is where I feel like Benjamin Crump and them should be sued for them putting out this information without facts. Let me point the facts out. Without context, it sounds bizarre. But when you put it in the context that a lot of people left their phones on the boat that left. Many kids came to get their phone after they left the lake. Nolan was with a girl. It's not shocking that Nolan would have said, hey, man, you guys had to leave, because they had to leave in an emergency situation. It wasn't like they had time to prep and everything. The boat was sinking, so they had to go. And they told Nolan, get on the boat, get on the effing boat, man, let's go. And he like, no, I'm finna hang out with this girl. I saw evidence of that, and others who had sent messages that I read that said that they asked Nolan to go and he didn't want to go. Now, a lot of people left their phones on the boats because they're sitting in chest deep water, and it's a bunch of people out there. The reception is not very good, so most people did not have their phone with them. Now, the phone and the keys situation, people need to understand the context. Nolan never brought his keys with him because they were on a boat driving 7 miles out to an island. His keys had always been at the residence where his car was. So when the guys go back, they text Nolan's mother. This is where it ticks me off. They showed me a phone call where immediately the first phone call that was made concerning Nolan was Warren called Nolan's mom, and she hung up the phone on him the first time because she didn't know who he was. The second call, he told her, hey, Nolan haven't come back. Do you know, have you heard from him? And then they called the Coast Guard. So his mother was very much aware that they had Nolan's phone. His mother did not have to track the phone through Life 360. His mother didn't come get the phone. Another parent of a black kid who was out there with Nolan came to get her son's phone and Nolan's phone. So Why didn't Al Sharpton or any of them ask these boys what happened, have them show evidence, and then present it to the public? And it's because I think they wanted the race bait instead of trying to find out what happened to Nolan.
Do you know that? Do you know that? Do you?
Hold on,
Charles. Hold on, Charles.
I'm gonna end it right here. Like I said, this is a fascinating segment, a fascinating conversation. Wow, like that last part, I had no idea. You know, I heard about the whole phone situation, but I didn't know about the details of it and the way he explained it. Wow. But yeah, you guys should definitely check it out. You know, leave a comment below, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Yeah, tell me what you think, man. Thank you for watching W2X. See you guys next time.
Fuck what you gotta say, homie, move out my way. Tryna move to the bay, sipping strong, fuck a chase. Smoking good, your shit lace. Hit the club, fuck a date. Ayy, ayy, this shit strong, can't lie. Lost the taste, my mouth dry. Body numb, I'm gon' die. Excuse me, can I get bye-bye? Gotta catch up for she fly. One more sip and I'm bye-bye. I've been drinking, smoking all night long, now I can't even focus. Leave the crib